In this video, I'm going to show you how to attach coil to a slab of clay. Before you start, make sure that you have a clean surface to work with. When you roll out your slab, you could use 3/8 or 1/2 inch wooden sticks to measure out the thickness. In this demonstration, I'm using 3/8 of an inch wooden sticks. Just to recap here, this is how you roll out a slab of clay. You start off with a ball of clay, 2 wooden sticks, and a rolling pin. And when you're rolling out your clay, you just want to make sure that you're flipping the clay constantly in between rolling so that the clay doesn't stick to the table. And once you have your slab, you could use a felted knife or a needle tool to cut out the shape that you want. You could use a ruler to definitely help you measure out the length and the width of your base. Remember, you could make the base any shape you want. It doesn't have to be a circle like the demonstration. It could be a square, it could be a rectangle, anything your heart desires. Next, you take your coil and you measure out the length. And to do that, you line it up with the shape of your slab and you cut it a little more than you need actually. So if you see here, I'm cutting the coil and I'm overlapping the coil. And you want to overlap so that later on when you're scoring and slipping, that the joint stays nice and strong. You start off with a scoring tool. It could be the scoring tool that we have or also a needle tool, and you score all around on both sides. And once you're finished with that, of course, you're going to put some slip on both sides. Remember, don't go overboard with the slip. Just a little bit goes a long way. And you're going to attach the coil to the slab, going all the way around. And if you look here, it's overlapping, that's exactly what you want. And you're going to put some firm pressure all around. And then you're going to do something called, what I call weaving. You're going to take a pointed end of a wooden stick and you're going to push the coil into the slab. And you're going to go all the way around. This is so that the coil and the slab joins really securely and stays there. Now we are going to push the slab into the coil. And you're going to go all the way around just like pushing the coil into the slab. And once you have that, you're going to take the flat end of the wooden stick and you're going to smooth out all the parts that you weaved together. And once you go all the way around, you'll notice that there's little holes and divots here and there. And what you're going to do is you're just going to get some clay and you're going to smear it into the little crevices that have been left over. This is just to fill in everything, just to make it nice and smooth. You could also take your finger or flat end of a wooden stick and smooth it out. And the next step is you're going to, where the coil meets the slab, you're going to put a tiny thin coil at that joint. So you're going to roll out a really, really thin piece of coil, and you're just going to stuff it where the coil meets the slab at the corner. What this will do is it's going to secure that joint where the coil meets the slab. It's just for where the first coil meets the slab. This just makes it extra secure so that it's not going to fall off, pop off, or crack off. And you're just going to smear it in there. You don't have to do scoring and slipping. You're just going to push that little tiny coil, smear it into the coil, and smear it into the slab. And you just go all the way around. Just secures the whole entire joint right there. Okay, now that we've finished the inside, we're going to now tackle the outside. So just like the inside, we're going to go ahead and just weave with the pointed end of the wooden stick. We're just going to weave the coil into the slab. And then, once we go all the way around, we're going to then go back and weave the slab into the coil. Just like what we did for the inside. All the way around. And if we want it to be smooth on the outside, we're going to take the flat end of the wooden stick. I'm just going to smear where we've weaved. And you could also take a metal rib to smear it together as well if you wanted to. And that's how you would make it smooth if you preferred a smooth vessel. If you prefer to have your coils show, you definitely will still do the weaving technique, but you're not going to make it so deep. Make it a little subtle, and you're going to weave it all the way around, from the coil to the slab and then to the slab into the coil. But you're going to make your weaves a little smaller, and you're going to take the pointed end of the wooden stick and you're just going to smooth it out. You're not going to smear it, you're just going to smooth out where the quill meets the slab. And yes, this process does take a while. And you're just going to go all the way around. Here I've shown you half smooth, half coil, just for demonstration purposes. So you have a smooth side and a side that still shows the coil details. Okay, now that you've had your first coil attached successfully, let's say you want to build your vessel just straight up and down. And if you do that, you're just going to line the next coil right directly on top of the first coil. This is if you want your vessel to be just, go straight up and down. Notice when you're measuring out, again, I'm going to take a tool to cut it and make sure that the coil overlaps one another. That's so that, the coil is nicely secure and strong. So you always want your coils to overlap if it's going to be like a long coil like that. I'm going to locate also where the first coil joint joined, and I'm going to make sure that my second coil does not go on top of that joint, okay? And the reason why is because you'll have an uneven wall, and also it's considered a weaker joint when you're joining coil to coil like that. So you don't want a weak joint on top of a weak joint. You're going to want to rotate it so that your placement of where the next coil meets the other next coil is going to be in a different spot. See, this is here, and then over here, this joint where the coil meets is over on this side. So you're always going to want to make sure that they don't directly sit on top of each other. So like that, you do not want that. Okay, that's not a good idea. Okay, so when I add the next coil on, same thing as before, score and slip both sides. And you're just gonna attach it, put some pressure on there, and of course, you're going to weave, 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 and smear. Okay, all over again. And you're just going to go all the way around, coil into coil, and then the first coil into the second coil. All the way around. And after you've gone all the way around, you're going to smear to make it nice and smooth on the inside. And of course, another tool you can use to make things smooth is uh, the metal rib. Don't fuss too much with making it perfectly smooth at this point when the clay is still moist. Here I'm just showing you how to attach a spiral onto the vessel right here. So just like anything where you're attaching clay to clay, you're going to score and slip. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm scoring both sides, I'm slipping it, and then I'm weaving it through on both sides and smoothing it out with my fingers or my wooden tool. Let's say you want to build a vessel and the vessel is going to, as it goes up, it expands outward, okay? To do this, you're going to actually still measure out the coil, but see here, I'm not putting the coil directly on top of the coil underneath. I'm moving it slightly outward. So the coil does sit on top of the coil underneath, but not directly on top. So see how I'm moving it out just slightly? And just like before, you're going to make sure that the coil overlaps and it's longer than it should be. You're going to score all the way around. You're going to take your slip and you're going to slip it and attach it. Let's say you your vessel wants to go inward, okay? So you'll have your coil. First thing to do, you're going to measure it out. So you're going to place the coil on top of the other coil. But instead of placing it directly on top or having the coil push outward, you're actually going to pull it inward a little bit. See how I'm taking it and I'm pulling it inward a tiny bit? So it's still sitting on top of the coil, but it's slightly moving in, just slightly. Okay, and this is how you measure it out. Of course, the coil is going to be shorter than the one that's underneath because it's going inward. And then I'm going to, that one didn't need to be cut because it was like the perfect size. You're going to score and slip and then continue. And this is not a finished product yet, but this is a vessel that I built where the coil sits directly on top of each other. So the vessel is not going outward or inward, it's just going straight up. And it's smooth both on the outside and inside. This one right here, I let the coils show on the outside, but it's smooth on the inside. So when you want to smooth out your surface, do it when the clay is leather hard. You take your metal rib and you're just going to shave off some rough surfaces. Don't be concerned with it when it's moist, because that's not the time to try to smooth it out completely. And that's how you attach coil to a slab base, and that's how you attach coils upon coils upon coils. Have fun building, everyone, and thanks for watching.